Good morning, everyone. This is Kristen Williams. I'm here with Michelle Underhill. We're looking forward to talking with you this morning. Michelle and I will both be speaking at various points during the presentation. I'm going to get us started and run through the agenda and the first section of the presentation this morning. So our agenda for the next hour: understanding the cross-generational workforce, different leadership styles, tips, tools, and techniques for communicating with the different generations in the workforce, recruitment and retention strategies, and embracing the cross-generational workforce. Now, more than ever, the workforce is comprised of multiple generations, all having different factors contributing to the things that drive motivation. So, understanding the cross-generational workforce. It's important to remember that a one-size-fits-all approach isn't practical with a multi-generational workforce. Today's competitive talent market requires employers to recognize the need to appeal to different audiences throughout the recruitment and retention process. Once someone joins the organization, it's important to understand their preferences for things like work arrangements, work style, communication, and help design your policies, practices, to appeal across a diverse organization. So there are 5 generations in the workforce. The first being the traditionalists born between 1927 and 1946. Baby boomers born between 1947 to 1964. Generation X between 1965, 1980. Millennials 1981 to the year 2000. And then Gen Z, born between the year 2001 to 2020. So today, 5 generations of the workforce can exist in the workforce all together. We have traditionalists in their 70s who are still working, really probably in large part depending on the industry and the business. We're really looking at late traditionalists, probably to the early Gen Z, all working, could be working in an organization simultaneously. All have different needs in the workplace that are influenced by world and life events, as well as their stage of life. Boomers still make up a significant portion of the workforce, while Gen X is probably the smallest generation represented in the workforce today. So different cultural drivers in each generation. We have the traditionalists that were influenced by things like the Great Depression, World War II, rock and roll, baby boomers living through the Vietnam War, the Civil Rights Movement, Watergate, Gen X, the AIDS epidemic, starting the dot-com boom, recession, kind of the introduction really of cable TV, MTV, things like that. Millennials, lived through the 9/11 terrorist attack, and really the internet and social media, really the beginning of that taking off. Gen Z, the aftermath of 9/11, recession, unemployment, really the global focus, and they're a generation that has not lived their lives without mobile devices. So we mentioned different events that influence the opinions, values, perceptions, attitudes, and preferences. For example, the Great Depression influenced the traditionalist need for a long-term affiliation with an organization and stability within a job. Millennials, on the other hand, less likely to be loyal to their company. They grew up with significant terrorist events. Work-life balance is important to them, looking at opportunities for growth and development and a fulfilling work life.
So with this multi-generational workforce, it's important that we understand and what are the work ethics of each generation. We will see some overlap between the different generations and some significant differences as well. As mentioned earlier, we need to consider how stage of life influences behaviors, drives, and motivation. Baby boomers at the age of 30 were probably more inclined to take risks and chase professional dreams than at that time than they are now. So where they are now is a different place than millennials, for instance. but they had the same drives at one time in their life. Traditionalists, they're going to, they believe in that hierarchical system. They believe in, obedience over individuality. They tend to remain in the same company throughout their work life. There are still some in the workforce, not in every industry, but perhaps family-owned businesses where there's partnerships, professional services firm. They value stability. They have expectations of how it should work, and they have trouble understanding the newer generation's perceptions and values. Baby boomers, very driven, disciplined, very strong work ethic, but at the same time, they value recognition, professional development. They like to collaborate. There's a significant amount still in the workforce. They're going to be around for a while because many are working well into their 70s. They're remaining in the workforce beyond retirement, oftentimes due to economic pressures, or they just want to continue working and beyond the traditional retirement age. Willing to make personal sacrifices for professional success, very driven, as I said before, with a very strong work ethic. Could there be a conflict with a younger generation? Absolutely. Generation X, the baby bus, self-reliant, independent, skeptical and flexible, but they are very motivated by work-life balance, efficiencies. They're very competent. They have an entrepreneurial spirit. Right now, this is the smallest current generation in the workforce. They're very level-headed, business-minded, and ethical. Millennials, Generation Y, competitive, idealistic, civic, and open-minded. This is the largest generation in the workforce now. They're highly criticized by older generations, but think about it. Business is changing rapidly, requiring new skills, upskills, which are driving all the changes. Industry changes, in order to keep up with the industry changes and the fast-paced business changes, they have to change jobs, careers, industries in order to keep pace. Many of us tend to view the frequent job changes as negative, but it really is professional survival. Gen Zs, these are the digital natives. Realistic, global, entrepreneurial, progressive. This is the youngest current generation. They're going to dominate the workforce by 2030. They are about individuality, independence, creativity. They're ambitious and thrive to excel. They may be perceived as unrealistic by older generations because of their their drive to grow and develop and take on supervisory responsibilities, leadership responsibilities. Again, this generation needs to keep up professionally to keep pace with business changes.
So leading across the generations, as leaders, how do we make sure that we're leading and adapting to account for the different generations in the workforce? So let's look at leadership preferences of the different generations. So traditionalists prefer direct, clear, and a little bit more authoritative leadership than the other generations. Baby boomers, collegial and cooperative. Gen X prefers leadership that is fair, competent, and straightforward. Millennials, a little bit more collaborative, collective action, feedback, and then Gen Z, probably even more so, collaborative and very open-minded. So traditionalists, they are comfortable in command and control leadership systems, probably much more so than the other generations. They seek structure, they like stability, they like certainty from their leaders. They also want satisfying work and opportunities to contribute to the organization. Baby boomers, collegial and cooperative. They're comfortable with democratic leadership styles, but it needs to be authentic. They seek clear goals, they seek deadlines, put them in mentor roles, offer coaching style feedback. They want the ability to contribute to the organizational goals and think big picture. Whether you are discussing new ideas or working through conflict, presenting, developing various solutions to the problem here is key. Gen X, fair, competent, and straightforward. They're comfortable with fair, open, servant-style leadership. Don't need as much structure. They're comfortable with looser guidelines, a framework that encourages that entrepreneurial spirit that Gen X is known for. Best ways to communicate with them, digital. They prefer emails, they prefer text. So anytime you want to reach out to a Gen Xer, you'll get a better response if you try and address their needs, take the pressure away from them. Think, how can I offer help rather than ask for help? And you'll get a great reply and lots of gratitude. They like direct feedback, opportunities for independence and autonomy. Millennials, collective action and feedback. They're comfortable with a more laissez-faire and transformational leadership style. They seek autonomy, want broad but yet challenging targets and milestones, things that they can work toward. They want to be involved early. They want to have the opportunity to contribute to things in the brainstorming stage. Approach a millennial before you have an idea formed so they're able to contribute and brainstorm along with you. That helps contribute to buy-in and helps ensure that they're on the same page, same team as you. This group, really a reliance on inclusive management, personal connection. They prefer regular communication about their progress, about their output, like immediate feedback. And this group too, a reliance on technology, prefers e-communication, texting, things like that. Gen Z, collaborative and open-minded, comfortable with coaching leadership styles. They also want immediate feedback. They like flexible work arrangements and quality work-life balance. And you'll see Gen Zers in the workforce asking for these things. They're not afraid to state what their needs are and what they're looking for. Offer them opportunities to work on multiple things at the same time. Allow them to be self-directed and independent. The Gen Z generation, social consciousness is a big aspect. This group is also seeking job changes often. So to Michelle's point earlier, this is often something that has been historically viewed as a negative, moving around in different jobs or taking short-term contract jobs rather than establishing a long-term affiliation with an organization. And I think it's important that we view recruitment and looking at jobs that generations, employees, applicants may have with a different perspective. I think this is in many ways the kind of the way the future is going of applicants, more contract, gig economy, looking for balance, looking for fulfilling roles, things like that. So leading across the generations, this is a big slide that has a lot of components. So a good leader fosters collaboration, motivates the team, overcomes adversity, fosters accountability, has the ability to connect with others, is making decisions, sound decisions, and that others are also perceiving as sound decisions, provides opportunities for recognition, clear communication, and provides flexibility. It's a lot of things. But really, I think what it boils down to is the ability to adjust styles, facilitates contributions, facilitates ideas. understanding what is driving behaviors in the workforce, and adapting accordingly. And that will help with leading different generations within the organization.
So let's discuss communication across generations. What should that look like? Communication preferences. Each generation has a different preference. So traditionalists, they're going to want printout paper. They're going to want to speak face to face. Boomers, they want to speak face to face. They want to be on the phone. That's a preference over email communications. Gen X, again, phone and email. Millennials, email, text messaging. Gen X, text messaging, or some kind of communication via mobile phone or mobile device. There are, of course, some overlap between the communication preferences and some, distinct differences. But these are the traditional modes of communication for each generation. That doesn't mean that there are folks in certain generations that prefer a method of communication that isn't common for their particular generation. For example, there are many baby boomers that prefer texting. So that's not necessarily uncommon, but in general, these are generalizations. These are the traditional forms of communication for the various generations. Key here is flexibility. We need to match the media to the recipient. We need to meet them where they are, understand what motivates them, their different values, and we need to remove those barriers to communication. Be willing to teach and be taught. It's a two-way street, and we just need to be open. We can share, but we want to receive as well. Remember, the amount of technological advancement between these generations is drastic. So communication across the various channels is important to reach all audiences. Boomers, they prefer to talk about work. Gen X prefers to talk about social or work life. Millennials prefer to talk about social or personal life. Acknowledge the differences, remove the barriers, and most important, as I said before, be willing to share and receive. So when we're communicating with each generation, we need to communicate, traditionalists need to communicate with how they are most comfortable. We need to listen and learn from them. Baby boomers, we need to respect their ideas, their life experiences, their opinions, their wisdom. Gen X, we want to address their needs, take some pressure away from them, think how I can offer help, not ask for help. Millennials, we want to pull them in, include them, get their opinion, value their ideas. Let them help construct a solution. Be part of that solution. Gen Z, we need to get to the point, be concise, succinct, and meet them where they're at.
So recruiting and retaining across the generations. I think recruitment and retention is something that is on everyone's mind. We've all, we're all, any of the organizations who are recruiting right now, I think over the last 12 to 18 months have been experiencing recruitment challenges. Attracting applicants, but then not only attracting them, but once you hire, retaining them. And it really presents a whole lot of challenges requiring flexibility and creativity in recruiting. Traditional methods don't always work anymore. So personalize your approach, considering different avenues to attract different candidates, personalizing your benefits to the candidate's main drivers. And while that might not be possible with every benefit, thinking about what's important to different generations, different groups in the workforce, and offering a variety to the extent that you can is important. Personalize your onboarding process to meet candidates where they are, whether that's more in person for those who may prefer it, or an online onboarding process, one that's more automated. Be aware of ageism and train hiring managers. Considering things when you're thinking about things like benefits and perks. Again, different things are important to different people. Time off benefits, wellness, pet insurance, strong retirement plans. And I think this has come up again more during the COVID times that we've been in, but workplace and work arrangement flexibility. We've been, many of us were in a work from home environment for a period of time. There are groups that are still wanting either a hybrid workforce or a remote workforce, but then there are some that want to return to the office and prefer that in-person, face-to-face communication. Other things, professional development, training, automation, philanthropy, community volunteerism. We're seeing those more as benefits that are being offered. It's important to really assess regularly, determine what's working and what isn't. What benefits are resonating with your workforce? What recruitment resources are resonating with your applicant pool? How are you onboarding candidates? Everyone's needs, workplace needs, applicant needs continue to change. It's important to try adapt accordingly where possible. Consider a broad range of ideas, a broad range of recruitments across the spectrum, recruitment, benefits, onboarding. So things that people are looking for in recruitment, retention, benefits. Traditionalists, generationally where they are, they're looking for long-term care insurance, catch-up retirement funding. Those are the things that are important to them as they're maybe considering retirement. Respect, monetary rewards are important to them, and prefer more traditional hiring methods and face-to-face onboarding. Baby boomers, looking again at retirement plans. Does the 401k or retirement plan offer a matching fund, catch-up retirement funding? Healthcare is important to them. For many of the baby boomers still working in the workforce, group health insurance. What does that look like? Is it comprehensive? Looking at rewards, monetary rewards, bonuses. Also recognition, flexible retirement planning. Also, like traditionalists, looking at more traditional hiring channels and onboarding practices. Gen X, 401k, again, we're seeing that here with Gen X, matching funds, telecommuting, flexible work arrangements, opportunities for family leave. Those are things that are important to Gen X. Monetary, looking at bonuses, stock options, but again, that workplace flexibility. Now we've transitioned to more digital hiring channels, more digital onboarding processes tailored to the employer brand. They really value career security over job security, results, and what accomplishment looks like over work hours. Collaboration, consensus, flexibility, all important pieces with Gen X. Millennials, flexibility, continued learning, 401k, tuition reimbursement. They want to see an organization that's innovative and collaborative, value things. Again, now we're seeing more flexibility, professional growth, feedback, monetary things like stock options. Again, in the digital world, digital hiring, digital onboarding, personalizing the employer brand, the experience of onboarding, making that personal to them. They're focused on the employee experience, and they really want to see evidence of that, and the why. Sophistication of technology, looking for organizations and roles that offer diversity within the role, diversity of tasks, and organizations where they have roles that have the opportunity to offer a work-life balance. Gen Z, online training, online certification, personal growth opportunities. And they're a generation that's still tuition reimbursement. That's still a focus for them. Rewards for them, mentorship, growth within a role, meaningful work, and responsibility. They are looking to take on increasing responsibility quickly, quick progression in the workplace. They don't want to be in a role where they feel like they're stagnating or in one type of role for too long. This is the technology generation. They embrace technology and want a personalized experience. Other things that are important to them, sense of community, sense of impact, not only maybe within the organization, but more broadly, whether that be world impact, global ways that they're able to contribute, leaving a legacy in the roles and in the things that they do. Sense of physical and emotional security in an organization, in a role, and that's an important part of the experience for them.
So we need to embrace the cross-generational workforce. It's here to stay. So when traditionalists fall off, we're going to have another generation. So it's going to be 5 generations for a while. And the younger generation will soon be taking over the workforce. They'll be leading. So in order for organizations to survive, we need this diversity within our workforce, within the multi-generational workforce. Remember, different life priorities at different ages play a role in defining different generations. Wisdom is natural from the older generations and technological ability from the younger generations. Again, we just need to share, and we need to be open to learning from each generation. So we have to understand the differences, but we need to watch our biases. So baby boomers, you know, what's said about them is they can barely use their phone. They feel their experience is everything. They're set in their ways. They're not open. Gen X, cynical, they're slackers, they're forgettable, culturally irrelevant, casual, and informal. These are all biases that we hear. Gen Ys, they're entitled, lazy, self-absorbed, into themselves. Job hoppers, they don't care. Your Gen Zs, they waste money on avocado toast. You know, they're hopelessly screen dependent. They just don't get away from that screen. And they feel entitled. It's more about the stage of life that you're in than the specific traits and other influencers. So like I said earlier, baby boomers at the age of 30 were thinking differently than maybe they're thinking now, and their drives were different. Previous generations are skeptical of those newer generations, and newer generations can be dismissive and stereotype the older generations, like the boomers being out of touch, for instance. Older generations feel newer generations don't have enough experience, and they feel they don't want to work. They don't want, because of that work-life flexibility. Are these behaviors typical across generations, or typical when they're all at that same age? So boomers that lack technological expertise, that doesn't mean they don't have wisdom. One aspect of differences at work, not only the only factor, but we cannot make assumptions. It's still important to consider the individual worker, consider the workforce from other drivers as well. So what are the tips for building a successful cross-generational workplace? We need to find a way to build camaraderie. We need to balance and mix those different generations and acknowledge and embrace the differences, learn from each other. Give and receive employee feedback. Yes, we need to set expectations, and we still have the right to have expectations in the workplace. But we have to take certain things into consideration and understand why generations are acting the way they act. Tailor our approaches and again, remove those barriers to communication. That mentor environment is important. Peer-to-peer, reverse mentors, and traditional mentorships. It's important for us to flex our management style and our leadership style. We need to allow for autonomy, personalization, challenge, and trust as professionals. Again, communicating through different channels. Provide efficiencies and automation. If we are not advancing technologically, that is a problem. We have that younger generation. They're going to be the primary generation very soon. And in order to attract and retain, we need to provide efficiencies and automation. And we need to continue to evaluate those changes in the work environment and employer needs and adapt accordingly. There are benefits of the cross-generational workforce. It's a strong contributor to being a diverse workforce. We have to recognize and celebrate the benefits of a cross-generational workforce. Don't focus on what you believe about the differences, because that is an opinion. And it could be a barrier to allowing a beneficial exchange between different generations. We need to embrace sharing and be open to learning the differences.